Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. I am so furious right now that I feel like my head is actually going to burst. Never mind the fact I'm going to make sure my sister ends up regretting the day she was born. The troubles I had to go through yesterday dealing with cops and sorting out the mess she created is enough for me to picture the million ways I could inflict pain on her. So, about 2 weeks ago, I told my parents I'll be going overseas for a while with my friends. It was a vacation we were planning for a long time, and finally, we were able to find time where all of us took days off from work. That night, my sister called me. It was a bit of a surprise because she only calls me to either ask for extra pocket money or some favor. I asked her what was up, and she told me she heard from my dad that I was going out for vacation. I told her I was, and before she could ask to tag along, I told her she's not invited, since it's a guy's trip. She told me she isn't interested in tagging along, but if I wouldn't be at my house for a while, then she'd like to stay there. She told me it would be beneficial for me too, as I wouldn't have to leave my dog with the neighbors and wouldn't have to pay for security. She said she'll do it for free if I just let her stay there since she needs to study for her upcoming finals and her dorm gets too loud and it's almost impossible to get quiet there. Because it was a quid pro quo, I told her I'd let her stay if she agreed to not invite anyone over and go out late at night. I also put down a basic rule list before leaving that she'd have to follow if she doesn't want me to snitch to our parents about her sneaking out of campus and staying at my house. The day I was about to leave, I showed her all the chores she'd need to take care of. I specifically told her to not let the trash pile up. By the time I left, she promised me that she'd behave herself and then practically pushed me out of the door. I was a bit worried because I know there's no way a college girl is going to stick to the rules or not invite her friends over, but as long as it's just a few friends, things should be fine. And if I'm lucky, she really just wanted to study for her finals. The 10-day trip we had planned to Japan ended quite nicely, and I was looking forward to going back to my daily life. But I had no idea about the mess waiting for me at home. When I came back and entered my driveway, I instantly knew something was wrong because the lawn was all trashed. My car was half parked on the lawn and it had a dent on the back bumper. I hurried inside the house, ready to confront my sister and ask her what the hell happened while I was gone. But I froze at the door. The house was a complete mess. Beer cups, empty Doritos packets, McDonald's wrapper, and other stuff were laying all over the place. The kitchen sink was full of puke and something that looked like spaghetti. I quickly checked the cabinet I kept the alcohol in, and sure enough, the bottles were missing. I called for my sister, but there was no answer. I tried calling her on her phone, but it went straight to voicemail. I thought she must have left for her dorm. I ran around the house to look for my dog, but couldn't find him anywhere either. I was worried and furious. The state of the house was so terrible that I didn't know where to even begin fixing it. And I couldn't reach out to my sister to ask her where my dog was. I decided to drive out to her dorm and knock some responsibility into her, but I couldn't find my car keys anywhere either. It was too hard to think about everything, so I decided to just clean my room and go to sleep and deal with the whole mess later. The next day, I woke up and called the old agency that used to send a maid to my house whenever I was too busy to tidy up the house myself. They promised to send someone over in an hour. I went out on foot to buy some bagels and coffee, and by the time I came back, the maid was there. It took about 4 hours to clean the whole house and get rid of the rotten stench that was filling every room. Finally, I was able to find the car keys, and just when I was about to leave, the cops knocked at the door. I asked them what was going on, and they asked me if I was the brother of Maria. Let's call my sister that. I told them I was. They told me that I have to come with them to sort out some things down at the station. I was confused and scared and asked them if my sister was all right. They told me she's fine, but she's currently locked up for public misdemeanor. They told me they had received a complaint from a bar last night that my drunk sister was having a fight with one of the girls who worked at the bar and that she damaged the property there. Every concern about my sister flew out of my head, and the anger that I was holding back since I came back flooded out. I went to the station with the cops and found my sister in a jail cell. I told her she'd regret all her decisions till now and that I wouldn't get her out of there. I told her I only needed to know one thing from her, and that is about what happened to my dog. She told me the dog was safe and she had already signed him up to stay at a dog care facility. She gave me the address and I left to get my dog back. On my way, I called my parents and told them everything. I told them that if they feel like getting that piece of trash of a sister out of jail, they should come down to the station and sort it all out because I don't think I can guarantee her safety if I was left alone with her. I was so furious that I actually started seeing red. She had completely trashed my house, and it cost me a fortune to get everything sorted out. She must have been the one to damage my car, and that would also take a lot to fix. Now, AITA here for leaving her in jail to rot? Is my anger not genuine? It's been 2 days since my parents got her out of jail, and I couldn't bring myself to talk to her after what she did. But I was a little worried about her, and that's why I called my parents and asked them if she was okay now. They told me that they had gotten her out of jail and were able to talk to the bar manager. They had to pay for all the damages, but the manager was polite and agreed not to take the case any further. As for the girl my sister got in a fight with, turns out they know each other from college and were already on bad terms. The girl worked part-time at the bar, and my sister didn't know this fact. She went there with some of her friends, and somehow the girl and my sister ended up getting into a fight. It was so confusing that no one knew whose fault it was, but because my sister was the one who damaged the bar property, she ended up going to jail. My parents also told me that they are going to get her out of the college dorm for the rest of this semester and the next one, and she'll be grounded even though she's an adult. She can commute from home if she wants to attend her classes. Now, I know what they were doing was a bit harsh, but I was myself so furious because of how much she cost me after trashing my house and car that I didn't talk to my parents to get them to go easy on her. Yesterday, I received a call from my sister. Because the last time I got her call, I ended up with a lot of problems. I couldn't help but experience a little PTSD. Nonetheless, I answered her call. I told her straight away that she can forget it if she wants money or and help with anything. I wasn't going to endorse her anymore after what she did. But she told me that she was calling to apologize for what had happened. She said that she didn't mean to let everything get so bad, but because it was the last day she got to stay alone, she invited some friends over who discovered the alcohol in my cabinet, and then everything got pretty out of hand. She told me when they ran out of alcohol, she saw her chance and coaxed them into going to a bar for more drinks. The guy who came in a Jeep was the one who bumped into my car while trying to get out of the driveway. She was planning to come back and clean up the mess she made, but then she got arrested after getting into a fight and couldn't come back home. She once again said sorry and was almost on the verge of crying. Since it's been a month, my anger had cooled down. As I listened to her story, I only felt exhaustion. I told her that whatever happened is in the past and she had paid enough for what she did. We ended up talking for quite a while, and by the end, she had managed to convince me to talk to our parents to let her go back to her dorm for the next semester. That cheeky little brat. I knew she was calling for a favor, but I told her I'd help her one last time, and she now owes me a huge favor. Then I hung up the call. Hopefully, this was the last time I had to deal with such a horrible mess in my life. NTA, I don't think you're the asshole here for leaving your sister in jail since she needed to learn a lesson by spending some time in that stinking place. And also, I think you were responsible enough to not let your anger affect your decisions because you did call your parents and inform them about her being in jail. NTA, I think what you did was absolutely deserved by your sister. I also have a little sister, so I completely understand how annoying they can be, and sometimes you just need them to suffer for them to understand the frustration they cause us. Honestly, I'm quitting this stupid job tomorrow. I went to work today and I'm a waitress. I was serving a table, they were being very rude. I didn't say anything mean back or anything, I just kept being nice to them regardless. When I brought their food, they asked me to come back and they ripped up their food with their hands and told me how vile the food was and how they weren't going to pay for that dish. I talked to my manager and she said it was fine and to just knock it off the bill. At the end of their dinner, they came up to me and they say, I do not want to support this restaurant. Do you get to keep the tips on card? And I said, no. He said, do you get to keep cash tips? And I said, not usually. He paid with a card and then handed me a 20 and told me to break it into two tens, which I did. And while I was handing them back, he said, this tip is for you, not for the business. I don't want to support the business, but I do like you as a waitress, and told me to keep a 10. I set the 10 aside and finished the transaction, and then once he was done, I pocketed the 10. My boss texts me after work and says, is this YN? And I said, yes. She says, you stole money from me. I was missing cash from the register, so I watched the security cameras, and you stole money. I will be deducting you $20. Don't do it again. It was a tip, which means it was impossible for the amount to be wrong unless I handed the wrong amount back to someone. I told her what happened, and she sent me a video of me breaking the $20 down and pocketing a 10. And I said, yep, looks like I broke the 20 down and kept 10, just like I said I did. I told her I'm not coming back tomorrow other than to pick up my last paycheck, and she can find some other poor 16-year-old who will work weekend nights alone. I don't get to keep tips. It was never stated that I don't get tips, but my fellow employee told me they usually don't let you keep tips, and I have never received a card tip. I have multiple $50 tips that I never got to see again, but I could justify them taking it by saying the customer wants to support the business. In this instance, I would have felt like crap if I just handed it over. It was specifically handed to me, and the man even told me he didn't want it going to the restaurant. We just had our other girl who worked nights quit, and I'm the weekend person, so it's going to mess them up severely with me walking out tomorrow, and it is only over $20. I feel a bit bad for leaving without putting my 2 weeks in, but I'm also very angry my coworker thinks I'm overreacting, and my boss keeps trying to convince me I stole money that I didn't. I really don't know if I'm overreacting with walking out and I'm an a-hole. Definitely NTA. They are abusing you. I think this could be wage theft according to some countries' laws. Oh my God. So NTA. Business owners be like no one wants to work anymore while literally stealing wages from said employees. Screw that 2 weeks notice and screw that restaurant. Go get a better job where you're actually appreciated and valued as an employee. NTA, they are taking advantage of you because you are young. Can't your parents help a bit here? Quit and don't be sorry about it. The tips are not for the business, they are for the waiter. Card tips included. As a client, you don't tip by card to help the business. You do it because it's convenient and you don't have to worry about carrying cash with you. The tip is always for the waiter. Depending on the contract you signed and the law where you live, you could even sue them. All the tips you received that they pocketed, they simply stole from you. It might be worth to get advice from a lawyer. If you end up working as a waiter again on your next job, read the contract carefully. Make sure a clause for tips is specified. My husband and I have been married for just less than 1 year. We have been together for 7 years. We have children from previous relationships. He has three, a 15-year-old boy, 13-year-old boy, and 12-year-old girl. I have one, an 8-year-old boy. My son lives with us full time. His daughter spends every other weekend with us, and his two sons live with their mom in a different state. A little background. When we first got together, his kids were obviously much younger and my son was a baby. I pushed and asked for a relationship with his kids and their mothers, but eventually stopped pursuing the idea, as it seemed as if I was the only one interested in the possibility. Fast forward to now. The kids are much older and I have zero relationship with their mothers. The boys have the same mom, his daughter has a different mother. and barely a relationship with his kids. It's not hostile or negative, it's just not there. I'm pretty much invisible. It's not ideal, but it could be a lot worse. In our home, I'm the breadwinner. It's always been that way. I'm fortunate to have a great job, extremely supportive parents, and a very privileged upbringing. My paycheck pays 80% of our bills and all of our household living expenses, trips, and extras. My parents are extremely involved with my son, and he spends plenty of nights and weekends with them. We have a great relationship, and the life my son has is nothing short of a blessing. Here's where the problem comes in. Because we got married, I was expected to provide for the three other kids at the same level I provide for my son. This is coming from parents who have never made an effort to get to know me, my family, or be involved in our lives at any point, despite my attempts to do so. At first, the request started off small, and I was inclined to think that this may be the start of relationship building, so I obliged. And then it exploded. I was expected to pay their way for summer vacations, summer camps, new laptops, TVs, video games, sports team fees and equipment, you name it. I've been asked. I finally put my foot down as my family is planning a reunion trip and I was expected to plan the dates around his kids' availability and finance the trip, about $1,300 each. I said no. It was not pretty. This year and every year for back to school, my husband was tasked with buying the back to school supplies. Not a problem. I encouraged it. He provides financially for the kids through child support, weekly allowance, and whatever else comes up. I've never had a problem with the money or with him providing for them. Never. The difference this year? All the kids want designer shoes and bags and are looking to me to make that purchase, and I don't want to. In summary, AITA for not wanting to provide the same lifestyle for my husband's kids as I provide for mine, based on the information above. NTA, it is your husband's and each of the mother's duty to provide for their respective children. Anything you choose to do is a bonus and a gift, but don't feel obligated to do anything you don't want. They are the AH for treating you as a wallet instead of taking advantage of the chance they had to have another loving adult in their lives. His kids are his responsibility financially, not yours. Your money has nothing to do with them in the least bit. It's nice you want to help, but these other moms have no right to guilt you into providing for kids you had no part in making. If your husband already pays child support, that is all they are entitled to. Don't let these vultures use you as a meal ticket, especially since you and dad don't even get visits with them. How can anyone possibly believe this is okay? NTA, they're treating you like a bank account. And it simply isn't fair. It's not like you're willing to pay for a medical bill or something. Absolutely no 12 to 15-year-old needs a name brand diddly jack. That is a privilege when provided, but should absolutely not be expected, especially when they're not willing to put in the same level of effort.